Welcome, everybody, to week 14 of the 444 DFS MVP podcast. I'm your host, John Breslin. You may know me as Scroll Patrol, joined by Neil Orfield, Davis Maddock, and Pat Crane. It is the, final week of the best ball initial qualifying season. So good luck to everybody out there sweating the best ball teams. But DFS-wise, we've got a big slate ahead of us. We've got 11 games. Some of them are actually pretty good NFL games. We've got only one game with a total under 40 points, and we've got 153-point total with Buffalo and Cincinnati. Obviously, a lot of games we can look at, though, for fantasy production. But how was everybody's Thanksgiving? Anybody have any major, Week 13 or Thanksgiving slate wins?
No.
Yeah, me either.
No.
I had a legitimate sweat in the SPY because, legitimate, whatever. It had Marvin Harrison Jr. scored the final touchdown instead of Trey McBride, then because he was only 4% owned or whatever. But good team, nothing great.
Yeah, I was saying before the show that I never win on Thanksgiving, and I don't know why. Seems like it should line up perfectly. But happy holidays to everybody. We'll move on to the week 14 slate, and we'll start talking about game environments as we often do. Neil, we'll start with you. There's one that is really sticking out there with Buffalo and Cincinnati. I believe it's Cincinnati in Buffalo, which actually makes an impact because we could have some winter weather. Of course, it's Buffalo in December, but it's still got a 53.5 point total. So what are your thoughts on that game environment? And then where else do you think we can look to for some fantasy points?
Yeah, it's kind of a thin slate as far as game environments. There's not a lot of game environments that are foolproof. There's a lot that you can kind of squint and see. I could see this one being fun, but in my opinion, there's not much. So yeah, I like that Cincinnati Buffalo one. Just always attacking Cincinnati, and then of course you get Buffalo's offense against Cincinnati. They should put up a lot of points, and of course with Joe Burrow on the other side, that's obviously a boost for the entire game environment. So yeah, that one stands out as a great game. I guess we'll have to pay attention to the weather. But yeah, I think that's the first one that anybody would call out is the obvious Buffalo Cincinnati one. And then after that, it's I kind of like Rams Cardinals. I think that could be a fun game, especially now that we have Michael Harrison out. We get Marvin Harrison out. We get some nice values.
Michael Harrison's in.
Michael Harrison is in. Yeah.
Greg Dortch out as well, by the way.
Yeah.
So there are going to be two guys who are running routes for the Arizona Cardinals who are stone minimum: Xavier Weaver and Andre Bacalia.
I did not even see that Greg Dortch is also out. Okay. That's good to know. So, yeah, that one is, but it's still it's not a great
They're also going to
matchup.
see stone minimum targets when Michael Wilson gets targeted relentlessly.
I think Michael Wilson, I almost said Marvin again. Michael Wilson is also relatively fairly priced with Marvin Harrison Jr. out. So
is he? He should be 9,000.
Well, good point. He's priced well, I guess, for us to play him is what I mean.
Yeah.
Right. No, you're right though. He's too cheap for the role. So I guess that one stands out even in a tough matchup for the Cardinals. We can go back to Jacoby Brissett, who still has not bumped up in price. And then of course you like the Rams side as well. So that one does sort of stand out as a game with, and the teams is apparently it's a pick 'em, which is kind of fun. So that one, and then of course, I shouldn't say of course, but the Colts Jags is kind of interesting. I don't know how much I'm going to factor in Daniel Jones playing on a broken leg. To me, that is a concern, but I guess we have to play someone. So maybe I'll play some Daniel Jones in that one as well.
All right. Pat, we'll turn to you. Actually, I've got a specific question that anybody can jump in on, but you can take it first. We've got a game with a 53.5 point total that's outdoors and could see some snow. And then one of the next game that Neil mentioned is probably the next game that I'm interested in as well. We've got the Rams and Cardinals. That's indoors and a 47.5 point total. How do you evaluate the weather? Do you just look at the totals, say, I think Buffalo and Cincinnati, at least without pricing considered, is just superior because of the higher total? Or do you target the indoor game environment, or do you look at the spread? Any thoughts on that or other game environments?
Yeah, I've listened to Chris Allen a lot over the years on this stuff, and he's kind of really good with the weather and how it actually affects the game environments. And my general takeaways have been that people tend to overemphasize the weather, and that weather can have an impact, but often you'll end up in a spot where it's there could be an impact on this game, but also the game could go off totally normal. And there's a lot more of those spots than the field generally thinks. So I tend to be someone who actually doesn't think about the weather like a ton unless it gets really bad. I don't like this Cincinnati Buffalo game. I just pulled up Kevin Roth's report on it, which is always super helpful. He has a good chance of snow plus frigid temps in the 20s, and then he notes that like some quarterbacks actually prefer to play in light snow because the pass rush slows down a little bit. So I'm not really factoring it in. If the total dropped, I would change my tune. That's when I would sort of go, okay, this, the market's starting to take this into account. And then when you think about like what's the opportunity cost, or what's the fragility of the other game, even if the fragility is not weather related, I think the Cardinals offense is kind of fragile given that they're going against the Rams elite defense. Not that I'm out on the Cardinals, but like that's not like a super safe game to me. It's sort of an upside environment that I could see failing. I honestly think the Bengals Bills game is quite a bit safer for points.
Yeah, I would say as far as weather, if I just never knew the weather, I think it would have had a better DFS career. Just nobody ever told me what the weather is. I think I've overreacted to it over the years for sure.
The thing to pay attention to is wind. Snow actually tends to have a boosting effect on offenses because, I mean, this is like really reductive, but a defender is always reacting. So they're more likely to slip and stumble. There's been like lots of examples of high scoring snow games. You also have to know your fighter. So like, what is
like
Zach
Jameis
Taylor?
Winston in the snow is going to still sling it. We've seen him do it.
It's more about the coaches, like Ben
Yeah.
Johnson, Nick Sirianni. That the Black Friday game, so obvious that game was going to be these two coaches. Like, oh, it's 27 degrees. We're going to run the ball. Like that should have been
Bill Belichick. We're just going to run every single time.
We're just going to run every. Yes, the
Bengals that frigid game. Yeah,
the Bills were involved in that game. That was against
that's
right. The Buffalo Bills. My read is that honestly, this game is actually just like way too important for the seeding for both these teams for there to be any like real concern. I think about offenses.
On the Bills side, I had James Cook as a cover boy of the walkthrough, and it does make me think the Bills. I kind of rant about the Bills, like why do they keep hiding Josh Allen? This is annoying, but also it's going to lead to James Cook going off, and Josh Allen will be fine because he's good enough to overcome subpar coaching. But I mean, I think it does kind of reinforce what the Bills were already planning to do, which is run the ball. I think they're even more likely to run the ball here.
Yeah. It does like start, and one of the things is that these are two bad rushing defenses, so it's a high total, but maybe not necessarily a shootout as much as I can just see guys running down the field, with through a hole in the offensive line. James Cook running like 6.
The thing that sucks about this game, we've seen this in years past. You guys remember there was a Patriots-Packers regular season game with like a 54.5 total. This was a long time ago. This was like Pete Gronk still. It was like the highest regular season total in multiple years, and it ended up being like a bad fantasy game because the teams are not particularly fantasy relevant then. The Bills have like 2.5 fantasy relevant players. They have Allen, Cook, and then sometimes Kincaid. And you think the Bengals like, oh, super fantasy friendly. I mean, T is fine, but Chase Brown, it got papered over by how many plays they ran against the Ravens. He's in a 50-50 timeshare.
Yeah, man.
Like if they run 56 plays in this game, Chase Brown is like dusted. Like he projects bad at 6,700 on DraftKings.
Like Chase Brown's success rate and stuff is not good, and P. Ryan's is really good. So I think good. This is going to like brace yourselves, but it reminds me a little bit of like Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, where like you have a guy in P. Ryan who they're like, yeah, we trust this dude to like pick up the yards when we really need him, and he's getting like 40% of the snaps now.
Yep.
What about? I mean, I guess we can talk about when we get to running backs, but like P. Ryan's only 4,200.
It's a Neil-ass play.
It's a Neil-ass play for sure. Very true.
Neil, we are less than 10 minutes into the show here.
You're right.
All right. We'll stick to the script. Davis, any final thoughts on the game environments or any particular games you want to call out?
I just, you know what? Corain mentioned being kind of scared of the Cardinals. At this point, I have touched the stove so many times without getting burnt. I'm
Like,
putting my
this
hand on
stove's
that.
broken, dude.
I'm putting my hand on the burner. It's like let's throw Jacoby Brissett out there against one of the 5 best defenses in the league with no Greg Dortch, no Marvin Harrison.
No, Greg Dortch kicks it
His
off.
3 receivers are going to be Michael Wilson, Andre Bacalia, and Xavier Weaver, and let's see if he can get his 8th straight 20th.
And the only
performance.
industry reaction to Marvin Harrison being out was just to take all his points and slide them, split them up between Michael Wilson and Trey McBride. There's no concern about the offense. I'm kind of with you. I've mentioned that game as being fragile purely to sort of say, like, if I were to fade the Bengals Bills because of a light snow to play Cardinals Rams, I'm pretty sure I would feel sick. Like, I would be vomiting all over my house by the end of Sunday. So it's more about that game environment has some fragility to it. I do think I'll end up playing some Cardinals because they're going to pass. They're going to pass against the Rams. That's like, I trust them. They did that against the Seahawks. They've been consistently pass heavy with Brissett. I think they're going to, like, the Rams have a good run defense. We just saw the Panthers go really run heavy against them, but they've generally been pretty good. And the Cardinals can't run. So I think they'll just kind of do their normal thing.
So Pat, we'll start with quarterbacks. Do you like the quarterbacks from that game, or do you go to Buffalo and Cincinnati, which we think could be run heavy, or where else do you look?
Yeah. So the one we didn't talk about in depth was the Colts Jags. I do think that game's a little bit interesting. I think Lawrence is a little interesting there as well. I'm like not sure about how the Colts will approach things. Generally, the Jaguars defense has been a major pass funnel, but obviously with Daniel Jones having a fractured leg, that could change things. But I do think this game could, like, one way or another, I think the Colts will probably be effective and could push the Jags to air it out a little bit. So I'm semi-interested in Lawrence. I think Allen is pretty interesting in this game. Like, it reminds me a little bit of the Tampa Bay game in terms of like how frustrated I was heading into the game with the Bills' offensive approach, and then Allen reminding me that, like, he's still Josh Allen and can just go nuts in a good game environment. So this is one where I could definitely see him being not just like the number 1 quarterback, but like the guy. I mean, where are you guys at on Jaden Daniels if he plays?
Who cares?
I like him. 6,000.
Who cares?
That game is gonna get drugged down by McCarthy. The Vikings keep doing this. Like two weeks in a row, the Vikings have, like, the opposing team has run like 42 plays because their quarterbacks just keep throwing pick sixes.
But McCarthy is better than Brosmer. We're getting a quarterback upgrade this week.
I was right all along. Vikings have a better quarter. I don't know what I'm saying. What I mean,
you're gonna play Jaden Daniels, and you're gonna get met with Chris Rodriguez doing his best Rashad White impersonation on like every 2nd and 8, and you can't even play Chris Rodriguez in what should be a nutted spot because they have like the worst it's got to be the worst fantasy backfield in the NFL. It's got to be worse than the Titans.
He's Samaje Perine, but then they don't have a Chase Brown. There's like,
they have like the worst possible version of Chase Brown, which is Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, who like can't do anything.
He's rookie year Chase Brown.
He's like rookie year Chase Brown.
Yeah.
And then they have skinny Samaje Perine and McNichols.
Right.
What if the 3 JJ McCarthy interceptions, rather than being returned for a pick 6, just like get tackled at the 5-yard line?
Just get tackled at the 5-yard line. Then Chris Rodriguez is a jam. I mean,
yeah.
I have so much Chris Rodriguez in best ball that I actually
Me
just
too.
a potential hedge I hadn't thought of. That I'll just play Jaden Daniels, and just in case Chris Rodriguez doesn't get the touchdowns.
Yeah,
sharp.
This game environment's like interesting to me a little bit, where like the Commanders' defense is so bad that I don't think I can play McCarthy. I'm just done with it. But I am interested in Daniels a little bit as a bet that the Vikings aren't like just completely. I mean, it's hard to be as bad as they've been recently. Like that, it's like historic stuff. So they'll probably regress to just like normal bad. Like if they were playing the Raiders, right, with the Vikings, the Raiders offense and the Vikings defense, wouldn't we be like, oh, Jaden Daniels, this could be fun?
Yeah.
Just
No.
be the Raiders, Vikings. It's not a big ask.
I don't think they can be, and I don't think they can be because the stench has now permeated to the offensive skill position players, so they're not able to give it 100%. Aaron Jones just had a press conference this morning, and the subtext of the press conference was, "We have had to dumb down our offense so much." I believe his exact quote was, "I've been playing football my entire life. This is pretty easy for me." Which is basically just saying, like, dude, JJ McCarthy, like, literally can't run KOC's, like, day one preschool offense. We've had to bring it back even further than that. Justin Jefferson, I mean, he's like, this is like the ultimate, the enemy speaks kindly, but holds a knife season from Justin Jefferson. You can just see every time he runs a route, like, his spirit leaves his body. Like, every JJ McCarthy fastball, he's just like, okay, all right.
It's true. I watch and it's bad.
It's
not
really,
fun.
it's
not fun to
really
watch.
bad. Yeah.
Do you think he's on a? Here's a question: if there was a text chain between him and AJ Brown, is Pickens on that chain, and are they just now like,
dude? What does Pickens have to complain about? I'm so
Right?
tilted.
Pickens has been complaining in Pittsburgh, but they got to be losing their minds. If he's
But
complaining now.
last night he just gave up. CeeDee Lamb gets a concussion, and Pickens is like, I don't really feel like it.
Yeah.
Not tonight.
He's like, let Flournoy do it. Great. Okay.
All right, back to the quarterbacks. Davis, thoughts?
I mean, I am like, Jacoby Brissett is going to be my primary exposure quarterback, because if you run your stuff and you just lock Brissett and Michael Wilson, you're going to get a ton of lineups with like A-Chain and Jamar Chase and James Cook and A-Chain and Jamar, because you're going to get a lot of Xavier Weaver and what's his name, Bacalia probably as well, assuming that these guys project for like 9 points. I mean, what some projection provider might do is bring up some guy I've never heard of, give him 4 points, give Elijah Higgins, the backup tight end, 3 points, give Tip Ryman 1.5 points, and then those guys, it just really depends on what the projection guys do in terms of the Sims. I'd like to toss out Trevor Lawrence. I know the Indianapolis Colts have all these great corners against man coverage now, but like, the Jaguars kind of have a sick offense now. Like, Jacoby Myers is playing very well. Parker Washington's like a pretty good third wide receiver. Brenton Strange, pretty good receiving tight end.
Tell me you play cash without telling me you play cash. Loves Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, right.
I probably am going to play, like, Jacoby Myers on my show yesterday. He was my gold star play. Like, dude, he just is.
Wow. All right.
He's got 3 touchdowns the last 2 weeks.
No, I know.
Like,
I have him above Brian Thomas in the ranks. It's disgusting.
The Jaguars are calling plays for Brian Thomas Jr. to block for Jacoby Myers downfield, dude. Like, it's over, man.
That's so over.
All right, so I do think like Jacoby Brissett actually becomes much easier to stack, right, without Marvin Harrison. We've seen this a couple of weeks, but like Xavier Weaver, like 64 and like 70% of the snaps in the 2 games, like Marvin Harrison was out. So not last week, the 2 weeks before that, combined for like 3 receptions for 24 yards. Should we really be, playing more Jacoby Brissett because we can get a cheap Xavier Weaver?
That is literally how it works. That's how a sim is going to work. It's why Tyrod keeps showing up the last 2 weeks, because
but that's different.
And Mitchell. Is it?
To me, that's different. Yeah, because we've seen what the Cardinals do, and it's football, so weird stuff can happen, and guys can get can score a touchdown on 3 targets or whatever, or randomly spike in targets. So nothing's set in stone. But like, we have a pretty good idea that what the Cardinals are going to do is feed Michael Wilson the ball here. His first read target rates and shares were awesome against
but Dortch scored 16 points per game in the 2 Michael Wilson blow-up games.
Dortch did, but I mean, like, Dortch is not my favorite guy, but like, he does some stuff. I don't know if Xavier Weaver does anything.
Here's a Greg Dortch thing. He averages over 12 fantasy points per game in every game in his career, where he's run over 60% of the routes.
That is amazing. Wow. So I don't know. I think it's going to be McBride and Wilson here to a large degree, and I think if Xavier Weaver is getting a lot of targets, then something went wrong in the offense, and I'm not sure that my Brissett stack's really getting there.
You just need him to score. You need him to get 12.
Sure. But I mean, like, if you look at the Jets, they're trying to feed AD Mitchell, and John Mechie runs all the routes and is out there, and it's actually working. Like, Mitchell's coming off a career game, hit 100 yards last week. It's not and like their tight ends, Mason Taylor, not Trey McBride. Mason Taylor's like
Right.
starting to look like he's in a rotation. So I think those Jets cheap wide receivers are a little different in that, like, I know for sure I'm getting all the routes. I'm pretty confident with Mitchell. I'm getting a lot of targets, and then Mechie has been involved a bit as well recently. So yeah, I think the Cardinals kind of no-name receivers are pretty thin.
Yeah.
Neil, your thoughts on quarterback, and then I know in the chat thoughts on Joe Burrow versus Bo Nix.
Yeah, I answered the chat question. I think I prefer Joe Burrow, even though Bo Nix actually projects better, at least in the source I'm looking at. Is close enough that, to me, just give me the stud in Joe Burrow. As quarterbacks, Jacoby Brissett, I like. You can just single stack it with Michael Wilson or double stack it with McBride, and just assume that McBride's going to put up a lot of points. If you don't play McBride, like, he's expensive enough that you can do the stack, I think, without McBride and still do pretty well. So I like the Brissett stack. I like Josh Allen. There's not a ton that I love as far as like unowned quarterbacks. I think that Jordan Love is sort of interesting. I think that's a nice spot against the Bears. The Bears have given up a lot of points through the air, and it's a divisional rival, probably going to fight back some. So I like a $5,900 Jordan Love just a little bit. I might play
like that
some
call.
Daniel Jones with a broken leg, as we talked about. There's not a ton to love here. I'm like tempted by Baker. I think Baker Godwin stacks maybe kind of inexpensive. So there's a few that I'm going to go to, but I really do like the chalk with Allen and Brissett. I think are relatively strong plays. But yeah, I think Jordan Love, maybe a little bit of Sam Darnold against the Falcons. They haven't looked so good lately. Bo Nix actually pops as like a decent value. So those are some of my targets.
I'm looking for like a Daniel Jones rushing yards prop after he had one carry for 1 yard last week on the broken leg. That maybe should hurt his like projection a little bit. But I agree. I mean, he like was still able to throw the ball, so I think he's in play as like a DFS quarterback option, probably not like the first option. I'm just trying to see if there's a rushing yards prop on that broken fibula. But I guess like, so to give my thoughts on quarterback, like somebody we maybe didn't mention enough is Matthew Stafford, that he's got like 32 touchdown passes. Like he's in that game with Jacoby Brissett. We can still play the cheap, or underpriced Cardinals receivers. But maybe pair him with like Puka or Devontae Adams as well. Like obviously he's going to be more expensive than Jacoby Brissett, but I also have like more confidence he's going to throw touchdowns. And like the Rams are just throwing the ball to Devontae Adams, for touchdown after touchdown, rather than Kyron Williams getting it. And that might reverse, to Puka to some extent as well. But like Devontae Adams probably under projected. But like I think Stafford's probably a top option at quarterback. I think it's between him and Josh Allen, trying to see like who I can afford, but like Brissett also in the top 5. But we'll shift to the ground game. Talk some running backs. Davis, any thoughts at the running back position?
Just a classic slate where if you're not a 150 maxer and you just play like 5-10 lineups or whatever, you can just do James Cook on everyone. James Cook projects like 4 points higher than his baseline. Like James Cook normal projections like 17-18 points. In my sheet, he's 22 points. This is one of the worst run defenses in the history of the National Football League. It's cold, it's snowy, right? It's classic James Cook stuff. And it's not a very good week at running back because Jonathan Taylor's the most expensive. Like Jonathan Taylor in my sheet. Let me actually look at the projection. So I actually have James Cook for 0.1 more point than Jonathan Taylor. Not to say Jonathan Taylor's a bad play, but it's pretty straightforward there. I don't really like playing Bijan against the Seahawks, and then A-Chain is like a total jam. And there are a bunch of cheap wide receivers, Luther Burden, Devon Vele, Adonai Mitchell, the Cardinals guys. Terry McLaurin's only 5,200. Pretty easy to double pay up for running back this week. I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I am not Lucy footballing Kenneth Walker. That last week that was so misguided, and I just let myself fall right into it. And it's just classic. Like we have to stop trying to make. I guess we have to stop.
It's a
trying
blowout,
to pretend,
man. I mean, a lot of the Charbonnet stuff was in the fourth quarter. Like, I don't know. I think.
But what we have to stop doing is we have to stop pretending that Ken Walker is someone that he's not. We know exactly what he is. He's a breakaway runner who's going to get between 14 and 18 carries and between 2 and 4 targets. And if he doesn't get the breakaway stuff, it's like getting mad. It's like getting mad at the Falcons for giving Algier goal line touches when it's like, no, you are the dumb person for not knowing they were going to do that.
No, the Falcons are the dumb people there. They just give it to Bijan, bro.
And sometimes they do. Every once in a while, they do.
They do. And you know what? It works.
And
because he's way better than Algier. And I kind of like Algier, but give it to Bijan.
But but in your decision making, you just have to acknowledge that that's the reality.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
We just saw Jahmyr Gibbs get a goal line carry last night.
Still get mad at dumb coaching decisions.
Can happen.
I think the thing with Kenneth Walker is that I don't know that we're pretending he's like somebody he isn't. Like he's 5,600 on DraftKings. Like there isn't a better better running back cheaper for that I can see. Like maybe Devin Neal. I for 5,100, I'd much rather find the 500 and play Kenneth Walker. So like when you play Kenneth Walker, you're hoping he does get that breakaway touchdown, but you're also
RJ Harvey.
RJ
but I mean, talk about the same sort of issues. If he doesn't have the breakaway runs.
They're at least giving him the goal line stuff though. Jaleel has no touches inside the 5 since Dobbins went out. His touchdown that he scored was like randomly from the 11-yard line.
Yeah, right. Peyton had some quote today where he said, there's a saying, you haven't seen anything yet, when he was asked about RJ Harvey. Ooh. And I'm like, yeah, but like we also like haven't seen anything yet. It's not. Does he mean it the way I want him to mean it?
He's had some nice breakaway plays. I think RJ Harvey, like people hate on RJ Harvey. And maybe I'm following the same trajectory as JJ McCarthy, where I'm still like, I think he's better than people think he is, and maybe he's not, but he's at least made some nice plays.
It's frustrating when you get these matchups where it's like RJ Harvey, speed running back against slowest defense in the league, and it's like, hey, how about minus 29 rush yards over expected? That do anything for you? God damn.
Got all these people putting better running backs than Kenneth Walker for the quorum. I don't know. I think some of this is questionable. I think Kenneth Walker is at least as good. But Neil, any other thoughts on the running back position?
Yeah, I probably will be doing the Lucy football thing with Kenneth Walker again, just due to lack of plays that look great that are cheap. Which isn't to say that I'm going to be like jamming it, but like I'll probably be with or maybe even a little above the field if he's going to get mid-teens ownership. Love the James Cook call out. That one just like even at his ownership doesn't look like it's high enough for his price tag and the matchup. So I like James Cook quite a bit. This is a slate where I guess part of the reason that I'm jumping at, like, somebody brings up Samaje Perine, and I'm like, maybe that's a play. I don't think there's a lot of like contrarian plays that look great at running back this week. I think it's like there's not a ton of plays in general. I think it's going to be kind of a jam the chalk week with Cook. Maybe I'll be under the field on Jacobs. I'm not even sure if that's the case. If he's active, Jacobs has had a pretty great role. Devin Achane looks great against this Jets defense that has been honestly somewhat better than I expected them to be after they traded away some of their best players, but I'm still kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop there. So I think Achane, and he obviously has a great workload, very much in play. Bucky Irving looks pretty good. RJ Harvey, as mentioned. I probably will play some Aaron Jones. Again,
yeah, I was thinking about him.
The passing game work with JJ McCarthy has been decent. Like that's one of the spots that JJ McCarthy has been okay, is bolstering Aaron Jones. So I think that is playable. Yeah, not a ton that's like off the wall for me.
One guy, and this isn't super contrarian, but I don't think he'll be chalky really, is Breece Hall. Breece Hall got a ton of usage.
Season high percentage of snaps last week.
Yeah. And the other thing is when you look at Breece Hall's stuff, so he had a 51% route participation last week with a 7% target share. Those aren't great numbers. And you're like, oh God. So we all know what happened. They brought in Isaiah Davis. He gets the routes and third down back. Isaiah Davis played 12% of the snaps last week. He had 5% route participation last week. What was happening instead against the Falcons, who blitz all the time, is that Hall was staying in to block. He had 14 pass blocking snaps. That's his highest of the season by a lot. The Dolphins blitz, so maybe we see that happen again this week, but they've already played the Dolphins, and they didn't use Breece like that in that first game. He had 4 pass blocking reps compared to 14 last week, and he ran 17 routes against the Dolphins last time, and that was with just 63% snaps when he had 88% last week. So there's a chance here that Breece Hall is kind of sneaky been put into like 3 down in like receiving role type of Breece Hall again. And, you know, he also had 68% of the carries last week. So that was the second highest of the season. He looks like maybe he's a workhorse running back against the Dolphins. And we also saw the Jets last week post a positive pass rate over expected. They had a 1% PROE, 4% on first down. They won the game. You know, they're looking like this. This is maybe ground floor Jacoby Brissett Cardinals, where it's like we have a team. They're not going to get to where they're just passing nonstop, but the Jets have moved like as much as the Cardinals have moved because they were just like hiding fields, refusing to pass ever, and now maybe they're like somewhat balanced, and they have a really good matchup here, and we kind of know where the targets are going to go. I'm kind of interested in the receivers too, but Breece Hall could really, really consolidate work in the backfield, and like frankly, this should have been happening all season. He's so much more talented than Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. Like this never made any sense that they weren't just feeding this guy. Maybe they finally came to their senses. Last week's usage would indicate they have. So I think he's kind of a jam. I think there's definitely some opportunity cost. I think Josh Jacobs is pretty scary. Like if you're going 6,500 Hall versus 6,800 Jacobs, like Jacobs can score 2 touchdowns easily here. But like if he doesn't, you know, I think Breece Hall could be one of these guys, especially on DraftKings with the PPR, and his big play ability could be an awesome play.
Can I sell anyone on a favored running back, favored against the Titans rushing defense, Quinshon Judkins?
Yeah.
Anything?
Yeah.
The issue is he literally will not catch a pass, and
yeah.
He has a 3-touchdown game with 27 DraftKings points. So like he literally does. I mean, he's definitely got to score at least 2 touchdowns, which certainly he can, but it is just a lot harder for him to get there on DraftKings.
There's some possibility that Dylan Sampson misses the game though, right? And I think Judkins was actually like ran some routes with after Dylan Sampson's injury, I believe.
I bet it would just be Jerome Ford.
It'd be Jerome Ford, I think.
That would make sense. But I think that the last game, let me actually double check this.
I'll throw in Judkins on DraftKings plus 475 for 2 touchdowns.
So I put in Judkins in a home league sort of setup where I've got a lot of options, and I put Judkins in over Chase Brown this week, which felt weird, but I think is correct. And so yeah, I do think Judkins is a pretty solid play. I'm a little bit, I don't know. To me, it's Shedeur Sanders. It just makes me. Shedeur Sanders has a 27% success rate this year. We only have 76 dropbacks on Sanders, but dating back to 1999, only Luke Falk and Craig Krenzel have turned in lower success rate than that. I called him Max Brosmer with a cooler dad in the walkthrough. I think he's capable of absolutely tanking this offense. It just makes me nervous about anyone on the Browns.
Yeah. Right. Three targets last week for Judkins, but that's not that much, not that far off his normal.
Well, let's move on to the wide receiver position. Neil, we'll get back to you. What are your thoughts on the wideouts? I'm going to answer a question from the chat.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Wilson is going to be mega chalk. I don't know what like the efficient ownership number would be for Michael Wilson, because we are expecting double-digit targets here, and he's only 5,600 somehow. So I think he's probably good chalk until it gets like 40% plus. At that point, I'd be probably trying to stay away. I think Christian Watson looks like pretty good chalk. I also think like with the how attackable the Bears are, I think Romeo Doubs is a pretty strong play, also more contrarian. So Watson kind of the chalkier wide receiver for the Packers, and I think like he's fine as chalk. But Romeo Doubs only 4,900. I still think is going to have those games where he's the guy. So I don't mind going there either. There's obviously a lot of pay ups. JSN, Puka both look like strong plays here. Pat already mentioned like Adonai Mitchell, John Mechie, I think are both in play as value receivers. Pat Bryant running a lot of routes now. He's only 3,400. He's got a Q tag, but if he plays, I think he is in play Let me see who else I wrote up as contrarian receivers. DJ Moore, I think, could be a strong bring back. Oh, and here's one that Chris Godwin, I think, is kind of interesting. Like we've seen the route participation going up. He's still not getting any kind of ownership. This game is in Tampa. He's inexpensive, seeing the target share go up and not getting ownership. I kind of think it's like the combo of things. I'm going to be really interested in Chris Godwin as a contrarian play.
All right, Pat, your thoughts on the wide receivers?
Yeah, the AD Mitchell stuff is interesting to me. They're like the way they talked about it after. So quotes after the games last week from Glenn, this is from Coach Speak Index, says when it comes to Mason Taylor and Breece Hall, we have to do everything we can to get these guys the ball. Anytime we get in the Breece hands, we know we're doing something great. And then Eggstrand was talking about Mitchell. He said you can see their explosive plays there to be had with Mitchell. And then Glenn also had a comment that Mitchell was not a thrower in the Sauce Gardner trade. He's a guy we wanted. He's a true X. He can win one-on-one. Basically, we're just going to try to feed him the ball. And then they've been feeding him the ball. So I'm like, they're telling us that this is the plan. And then we're seeing, the first read target rates for Mitchell have been really strong. He's finally doing something with it. So I am intrigued by him. Now, he is looking like he's going to be chalky. And I did note in the walkthrough that he hasn't been double covered really at all since joining the Jets, and that might change this week. So that's like a little bit of concern there. But Mechie, I think, is also like totally fine at 4,500. If Mitchell draws more defensive attention and they have to go to Mechie, he's running all the routes. So this, God help me, but I'm kind of into the Jets offense this week. Let's see. Jacoby Myers, Davis mentioned, I think is a genuinely good play. Devontae Adams, you mentioned earlier, John. I think he's a good play as well. I don't know if I have the heart to play Justin Jefferson. Maybe he doesn't have the heart for me to play him either at this point. But I do think this is a matchup where like the Vikings should be able to not look historically bad. This defense, you can take advantage of this defense. They're so bad and they're so slow. And that was like when they had Bobby Wagner. So I'm thinking about the Vikings. I'll say that. I'm not sure how many Vikings I'll have, but I'm thinking about them.
Nice.
Alec Pierce is someone sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, is Rome Odunze, like, he has not been practicing, right? I wonder.
I think Rome Odunze might be out, which would be a pretty big that would change things up. I mean, I would be into Luther Burden if Odunze's out. He has not been at full route participation. If you look at DJ Moore, his route participation last week was 98%. So he's not playing anymore, and if you look at his first read target rates, they've been kind of meh to bad all season. Luther Burden is higher than him there. He's higher in yards per out run. He's higher in targets per out run. Everything about Luther Burden is more exciting than Moore, except he doesn't play. But he is playing more recently, 61, 61, and 58% route participation over the last 3 weeks. So he's moved ahead of Zacchaeus. He's mostly been playing out of the slot, but Zacchaeus is like kind of pure slot. So I think Burden would help fill in for Odunze, at least get into the 75% route participation range, maybe not like 90 plus, but he definitely see a bump in playing time, and he's been flashing as a playmaker. It's a tough matchup, but he's only 3,800, so I would be into him for sure. And then Shakir is another guy I just wanted to throw out. He, I think, correlates quite nicely with Josh Allen, not just in the normal way, but because his route participation dropped quite low. I think it was at like 50% last week, because they were running all this 12 personnel and they're in the super like run heavy mode and they were doing their Bills thing. I mean, they ran like an egregious amount against the Steelers last week. So if we're in that mode, Josh Allen is not going to get there and Khalil Shakir will barely play. But if we're actually in a shootout, then we're talking about more 3 wide receiver sets. And we've seen, like when they were trailing against Houston, Shakir was at 80% route participation instead of the 50% that he was at last week. If we get Shakir on the field, he's been by far the most interesting of these receivers. It just requires them to be in 11 personnel for him to have the role we want. So it's a bet Shakir's like, I think it's a bet on a very specific type of game environment, one that would favor Allen.
I'll say so Shakir's had like 2 massive duds in the last 3 weeks with a decent game in between, but it's a little bit weird. Like he leads the Bills in receptions and receiving yards. They've got the highest implied point total in the week. It's the highest game total of the week. He's a cheap receiver, and like he's pretty much like out of people's minds. Like just because he's had such massive duds in 2 out of the last 3 games. But so
sort of a situational player in a way, but that situation is when they're throwing. And yeah, so kind of makes sense for DFS.
For the Bears receivers, like, are you saying you'd like actually prefer Luther Burden raw points to DJ Moore if Odunze's out?
I mean, if you like made me sit down and do like median projections, I bet DJ Moore would like be a little bit ahead, but I'm way more excited about Burden. I mean, Moore has had opportunities all season to show that he's a part of this game plan in a meaningful way, and he just hasn't done it. He did have a decent game 2 weeks ago, and he had his highest first read target rate of the season there. So maybe he's like kind of breaking through here a little bit. I don't know, but Burden has been flashing all season when he's been on the field, like consistently strong targets per out runs.
They just haven't had to. They just really haven't had to like have a pass heavy game plan the most recent 2 weeks. I know Caleb has like 35 attempts in back-to-back weeks, but it hasn't been like a come from behind, gotta have something happen. Like Caleb, let's see what you got type game, and that should be what happens in this game.
Right.
So I think in that script we see Burden's route participation come up even more because there will be a little bit less Kmet and probably no Durham Smythe. We could get Luther Burden up to like 75, 80% route participation. Burden is my favorite punt wide receiver play of the week because I don't think his floor is all that different than John Mechie. Like he could definitely have 2 for 20, but he could also have like 10 catches, because he could get the Olamide Zacchaeus stuff and the Luther Burden stuff,
Yeah. I mean, he's been flashing as one of these kind of classic rookie wide receivers who comes on down the stretch. He's got 2.19 yards per route run this year. Like, give him some more playing time. And now they might have to, right?
Davis, any other thoughts on wide receivers?
I mean, I just I don't care what Adonai Mitchell's projected ownership is. I made this comparison on, I don't remember what I made it on, but what Adonai Mitchell is right now is he is like a chucker NBA guard on a bad team where like the coach oh, what are you going to do? You're going to bench me? You're not going to bench me, bro. You're not going to Arian Smith was a healthy scratch last week. Their 4th round pick wide receiver was a healthy scratch. Like they just have to live with the AD Mitchell experience, which is good for us.
But you know what I like about it, Davis, is that like they're not like, oh man, I guess we're gonna chuck it up to AD Mitchell. They're like, this dude rocks. We wanted him. He came in here. This is exactly what we wanted.
I mean,
yeah. I kind of like AD Mitchell,
in the context of the Jets. He's like he's like, oh my God, this guy's the greatest route runner we've ever seen.
I buy into those narratives so heavily that like ownership, like management is trying to sell ownership and the fans on the idea that like, hey, we didn't just like acquire a bushel of like 1st round draft picks. We actually got like this player.
You got a dude.
Star, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing such a good job. You got to keep me as general manager. Like, look at this guy I just acquired.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
They let us get AD Mitchell. These fools. Yeah. I
think
you're right.
And honestly, in my opinion, they were dumb to let him go. Like, it's like this guy was a 2nd round pick 18 months ago. The Colts like absolutely should have been like, we will get you whatever you need because you're very clearly good.
His separation score has been elite.
His open score, I think he's 91st percentile in open score. Yeah. Even in receiver rating, he's 85th percentile. And that includes, I don't know how I'll have to check with ESPN when you flip the ball out of the end zone, how that affects your yak score.
I defend Adonai Mitchell there. He did not actually like intentionally, a lot of players like drop the ball before the end zone.
Right.
It slipped out of his hand when he was like trying to do this thing, which wide receivers do that all the time, like lift the ball above their head. It just like happened to slip out of his hand. So I like, to me, that's like a little bit better.
It was better than DeMercado for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Better than DeMercado. I mean,
I thought he was even trying to just switch hands, right? Like I thought there was a defender closing on him.
I think he was switching hands for this though.
I think he was too.
Yeah. It's like, yes, he was, but why? Why were you switching hands?
Some AD Mitchell defenders, though, right?
Yeah, more forgivable than DeMercado is all we're really saying.
Yeah. Anyone who's played Dynasty, it is sharp that the Jets were like, hey, so that guy that you hate now because he lost you a game single-handedly, what about him?
I'll say for wide receivers, just to give my thoughts, the guy I was hoping nobody would say was Devontae Adams, right? Because he's got like 8 touchdowns in his last 6 games or whatever it is. He's like just constantly being looked at it in the red zone, especially like within the 10, which isn't that common for wide receivers. Anybody interested? And I think like Puka is also like up there. So I guess I'm like pretty long on the Rams passing offense. Anybody thoughts on Pat Bryant? I know he's 3,400 on DraftKings, so basically just a DraftKings play, but seems to be getting more work lately.
Yeah, I like Pat Bryant. Like that he's getting so much work. He's only 3,400. Up there with Luther Burden as far as value plays, I think. And yeah, Devontae Adams. I think there's also a couple narratives like they are trying to get the MVP for Stafford. I mean, they lost last week, so maybe that hurts a bit. But like, I think that is maybe a real thing that Sean.
He's still neck and neck with May for the MVP, so and obviously May's on bye. So
they're just throwing him those 1 yard, 2 yard touchdowns instead of running in with Kyron. And then also, I believe Johnny Proctor brought up the possibility that they want to get like a record for quarterback to wide receiver touchdowns within a season. Maybe that's within reach. That's something that I heard in passing, that it's potentially within reach that he could have like the touchdown record this year. So maybe a couple.
It would be so strange if the touchdown record was held by Matthew Stafford to Devontae Adams, 2 guys who are famous for different pairings,
different teams.
Yeah, true.
It's like it's Stafford not with Megatron, and not Adams and Rodgers. That would just be strange, man.
Yeah, it would be very strange, but apparently within reach. I have not actually, that's something I heard in passing and have not looked into it, but at the very least, I think like they're definitely trying to win him the MVP.
Yeah, right. No, I agree.
We'll move on to tight ends. Pat, I think we're at you. Any particular tight end thoughts?
Yeah, 1 sec. Where are my tight ends? All right. Tight ends. I mean, McBride, we're in this environment. I know he's 8,000, but like this dude's not projecting like a tight end anymore. He's just a receiver that fills your tight end spot. So I think he's strong. I mentioned the Shedeur Sanders stuff. It makes me nervous about Every Brown. I do think Harold Fannin is at least in play though at 3,700. No, he just took over.
He's an awesome play. You don't have to be shy about it.
I'm shy because I think Shedeur is really bad. Like I'm on the low end of he has a first percentile success rate, and I have a first percentile interest in Shedeur Sanders. That's what it is. But I mean, I do think Fannin just running out all the routes now, 90+% route participation. So and Njoku like still plays a little, so it's kind of about him being like a big slot where they don't need to have Njoku off the field to get him out there necessarily. So yeah, I think he's pretty interesting. I don't think it's a great week at tight end, to be honest. I mean, Kyle Pitts is okay, I guess. I don't think I'm going to pay up for Tyler Warren, who's going to be kind of chalky. 5,000 for him. I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous about exactly how the Colts do it this week. I kind of want like Pierce, kind of a cheaper piece is a little easier for me.
See, I like Warren in games where they're going to have to try because he's just been so good at getting open.
Yeah, but it's the play actions. The thing that worries me about the Colts is that it's all, it's a little bit of the Rube Goldberg machine thing where it's like it's like the run works and then the play action works off of that, and the defense doesn't know what's coming and they actually pass more than you think because you think they're running the ball. And if the run game's not getting going against a pretty good run defense and Daniel Jones isn't someone they can lean on, which they didn't at all last week. They were super run heavy, which is not like them. I don't know. I'm worried about kind of the play action stuff that's really been driving Warren. I mean, Warren's been that's been a huge part of his value this year. Not so much just like the straight drop back stuff.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of like AJ Barner in ownership projections. Davis, do you think you have any interest there or
No, but I do like Kyle Pitts. So the Seahawks defense is very good, but for like whatever reason, and this probably actually doesn't mean anything, they are the fourth tight end fantasy points per game against the Seahawks is the 4th highest in the NFL. And that might just be because they have good corners, might be because their linebackers blitz. Like, don't ask me to break down why it is. But, the Kyle Pitts thing is so funny because when I see him in optimals now, I don't even think of like what Kyle Pitts was supposed to be. Like, to me, he's just like Jason Witten or Jawan John. Like, he's just a guy who exists. And so if Drake London is out, like, I'll probably give him an extra 2.5 targets. Like, I'm no longer thinking like, oh, this guy's burnt me so bad, or this will finally be the week. Like, he just is just like a really normal, the 11th best tight end.
You know who he is?
Or something.
He's Jared Cook.
Jared Cook, the better one is Eric Ebron, who was the 8th overall
Eric
pick,
Ebron.
I believe, who like was a huge bust and then had a 15-year career as just like the most normal tight end of all time.
He looks more like Cook and he plays, but he is more Ebron in his career.
Kyle Pitts had a tweet in 2017. I actually just recently saw someone drag this up who said, like, it was before the draft. So before he got drafted, he's like, I'm feeling like Eric Ebron. And it was like a picture of him hurdling someone. And it was like, wow, how prophetic, man. How prophetic.
By the way, I didn't mention Brenton Strange, who I think is a really strong play. He had 81% route participation last week. Bro. Yeah, I mean, Strange. The thing that really strikes me about Strange is that he got hurt. They replaced him with Hunter Long and Johnny Munt, and those dudes did nothing. Like, it's like to the level of the Lions, where it's like Sam Laporta versus like Brock Wright and Ross Dwelly. Like,
yep.
Oh, this isn't a tight end role. This is this guy's really good, and we're trying to feed him role. And so then Strange comes back, and he had 21% route participation against the Cardinals at 3.88 yards per route run. He was at 1.73 last week, which is solid enough. He's at 1.92 for the year, which is 92nd percentile at tight end. He's 88th percentile in open score. This team has clearly identified him as one of their playmakers. We see that with the way they use the tight ends when he's out and the way they immediately use him when he comes back and the usage he had before he got hurt. I think the fact that Thomas, isn't doing it and Jacoby Myers is looking like the wide receiver 1 there, I mean, and honestly might be Strange. Strange might be the best weapon on this offense right now, at least in the minds of his coaches. So I think he's kind of fun.
I think some of that Brenton Strange thing also, like, it coincided somewhat with Travis Hunter being out, right? Like, Hunter went down and then Strange came back. So it was maybe seeing more receiver work than Long or Munt. I don't know.
Well, and I mean, to start the year, he had to 2.57 yards per route run in week 1. Dropped to 0.46, but then 1.97, 1.73, and 2. Like, he was pretty involved basically every time he's played, he's been involved. And Long and Munt, I guess they were out. When did it was LA, right? Was when
he missed his final game where he went off.
Yeah. So Strange missed the Raiders game, the Texans game, and the Chargers game, and those dudes were ghosts.
Neil, any thoughts from you on tight end?
Yeah, I like the Strange call out. I think I am interested in Tyler Warren, even as like sort of chalk. It is like, you look at his game log, he has not had better than 18.3 DraftKings fantasy points in a game, which is like, yeah, I guess you want that at 5,000.
That's such a JM to win. Like, JM to win is like, he's like, I love that guy. The way he thinks about daily fantasy sports is like, he's so deep, but that's like always what he's doing. He's always like,
yeah,
this combination of guys gets this many points.
Can he give me 18? He can give me 18. Can he give me 25? Can he give me 30?
So when anyone starts to do, he's never been better than that. I'm always just like, wow, that's so JM to win.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, I think at some point he will, though.
But I agree. I mean, I think
but I actually agree. I agree. Neil, I agree with your point. Because it's his good games have been touchdown related.
Yeah.
But it's like, to a certain degree, how many touchdowns can you project a guy forward plays with Jonathan Taylor, who's like going to get a lot of the goal line stuff?
Yeah, but it's such a nice matchup for tight ends that I still like. I kind of like it. I'm not like extra enthusiastic about it just because we haven't seen the blow up games from him like we see from Bowers, McBride. But I think I'm willing to pay 5,000 in a fair number of my lineups. Speaking of Bowers, I think like great matchup for tight end specifically. I don't know that I love the like team environment where it's like they're probably not going to score that many points. So like it's a nice matchup for tight end specifically, but yeah, it's obviously he's on the Raiders.
I don't know if I love the team environment. It's one of the nicest things you could say about.
You're right. It's a terrible team environment for Brock Bowers, but it's a nice, like, specifically for tight ends in terms of at least schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed per game. It's been like sort of a tight end funnel in that sense. So, and Brock Bowers, but like maybe they just put 2 defenders on him and he can't do it anyway. I don't know. It's sort of
last week. I thought that like I think I wrote this, which was like, if you were hired to coach the Raiders, what would you do?
Yeah.
It's like, well,
just
every play,
pass.
it'd be Bowers and Genty.
Yep.
And I believe it was 58% of their plays was either a Genty rush, a Bowers target, or a Genty target. So even if they only run 50 plays, and they only ran 48 plays last week, but even if they only run 50 plays and score 14 points, like that's still probably a good spot for both of them.
If I was in charge of the Raiders, Kenny Pickett would be starting this week. Then Aiden O'Connell will be starting next week. I'm calling Cam Miller up from the practice squad. He's starting in week 16. Like I'm moving on from Gino. I don't understand why Gino's still there. Yeah. He's the worst veteran quarterback we've had all season.
Gino, by the way, priced at $4,300 DraftKings dollars as a quarterback who started every game.
And we're not even like thinking about playing him.
Don't think I've ever seen a starting quarterback every single game down at 43. I guess Shadur.
Looking up Cam Ward is 4,800.
Yep, okay. Yeah, he fit $500 less than Cam
But
Ward.
Cam Ward, and I've been pretty critical of him, but he's a rookie, Gino,
right?
Like you were brought in for stability, bro. What's going on?
He was supposed to be good. I was part of the reason I was so excited about Brock Bowers all offseason was like, oh, he's getting a quarterback upgrade. Like it's got to be.
Well, this has been my joke is that we're just going to make the exact same arguments about Brock Bowers. Coaching upgrade, quarterback. There's not a bigger coaching and quarterback upgrade in the league.
We are 100% going to make, exactly, and we're going to be right. We're going to be right.
It literally doesn't even matter who it is.
Yeah,
like
anybody.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, Davis, it actually does matter as we're learning this year.
JJ McCarthy. I mean, it doesn't matter who you throw in the Viking system; they're going to be great.
Two of my biggest. It can't possibly be worse is Geno Smith and JJ McCarthy, and
Same.
Yikes.
I just want Brett Jones's Broncos shutdown tight ends in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. It's the 4th best matchup for tight ends over the past 5 weeks. It's a positive matchup on the season, so maybe they shut them down in real life. Yeah. Ertz just had a huge game against the Broncos. Two other names I want to throw out just real quick. Colston Loveland, if Rome Odunze is out, like we could see, it's not a great matchup for Colston Loveland, but he's inexpensive. I think a talented tight end. So if we get no Rome Odunze, I think Colston Loveland becomes more interesting. And then I don't think we mentioned Dawson Knox, who I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on. It's like great matchup with the Bengals. If Dalton Kincaid is out, to me, looks like a value. But I think
Kincaid is going to play.
Okay.
I was going to wrap up the tight end discussion by actually saying I think we need to mention Dalton Kincaid. You need to I think he's actually in play as like even a one-off kind of tight end if he plays against the Bengals. But I think Dawson Knox is maybe you have to look at that as well. I haven't actually checked the price of like Knox versus.
What is Kincaid's price? I don't have him because
4,300
is out. Yeah,
it's a nice play. I thought he was going to be out.
The thing that's nice about Dalton Kincaid is that he plays like he's coming back from an injury anyway. Like he's going to play like 45% of the routes, but that's just his normal role. So he'll be immediately back to his normal role. And he's been somewhat productive, been super efficient, and this could be a great game environment for him. So I like that a lot. Let me throw out Darren Waller, 3,800, and was running a bunch of routes last week. Seems to be kind of back in that same role, and he was getting used in the end zone targets, and they're going against the Jets, so they should be okay. And then I wanted to ask you guys, I'm seeing Mike Gesicki project okay. He was in a timeshare with Noah Fant last week, and Higgins is playing. So am I missing anything there? Because I'm pretty much going to X him out.
Maybe the projections don't have T Higgins back with a full target share. I wouldn't play. I wouldn't be interested.
I'm not playing.
Yeah.
Parkinson is almost an interesting shout, but 43% route participation last week is sort of tough to get there. I think it's plausible.
I think Parkinson's if I'm playing Stafford.
Yeah.
I'd play him.
Yeah. He's been okay in terms of the per route stuff. It's a little tricky there though. I think it's just tight end, and it's whoever happened to be the guy on that route got targeted. So I'm not sure. Even though his efficiency is good, I'm not sure it's as talent related as I normally assume.
All right. Any other thoughts on tight ends or any closing thoughts on the week from anybody?
All
right then.
Did we not mention Derrick Henry at all? Because I would note. I think
I'm just expecting Cooper Rush to play.
Oh, okay.
Lamar, no practice Wednesday, no practice Thursday. Haven't seen anything.
I thought he was seen out there today.
Let me see. Lamar Jackson. I got T. Higgins is in. Lamar Jackson seen participating. So I guess if Lamar plays, he's good.
Because I think I think we could see a really gross game from the Steelers here.
For sure.
And so that would set up Henry pretty nicely.
All right.
He's kind of expensive, but
yeah. All right, that'll wrap it up for this week. Good luck to everybody on Sunday. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next week.